Greetings from Tokyo, I'm Trip, and welcome to the Hammer of Wrath. This week, you and I are going to learn how to paint Tau the hard way. Let's go. Thanks for joining me in the studio. This week, I'm going to show you how I painted my Tau sept Viola. But first, I want to talk quickly about something that's been bothering me. Now, when you move to another country, there are going to be things that are different culturally, and you either have to come to accept them, or they're going to drive you mad. And in most cases, I've had no problems adapting to life in Japan. Of course, there are the usual cultural stumbling blocks, but there's something that I simply can't abide. Believe it or not, children's car seats just aren't a thing here. That is to say, of course, they exist and you can go to the store and buy them, but for the most part, nobody uses them. And as a father of two kids who went through the process of making sure that I had all the proper safety equipment when we were driving in the United States, it kind of drives me mad. As you're walking along the street, if you pay attention, 9 times out of 10, you'll notice that the parent is driving and the child is simply sitting in the seat next to them, or in some cases, on their lap. And my anxiety is, I can't. I just can't. And of course, they're not wearing a seatbelt. Honestly, it's like America in the 1970s. It is the wild, wild west of child car safety, and it absolutely drives me insane. I had to get that off my chest. So let's talk a little bit about Tau sept Viola. Now, that's the white and red color scheme that we see Games Workshop use for all their promotional materials and box art. But that wasn't always the case. In fact, when I purchased this army, the scheme that was used on all the box art was tan and brown. Now, I'm not sure what sept that is. I never bothered to learn because I knew right away I wasn't going to paint my army like that. Having seen a few examples of white and red Tau armies online, I knew right away that's what I wanted to go for. And that's how I painted it. But here's the catch. I painted my Tau army before the existence of contrast paints. And when it comes to most things like the mech suits and the stealth suits and the armored vehicles, that's not an issue. But where it really could have helped is in the cloth on all the infantry units. So today I'm going to show you how I painted my army without contrast, keeping in mind that if you're painting a Tau army today, don't do like I did. Use contrast paints for the fatigues. It's going to save you a lot of steps, and as you'll see in this video, what is 4 steps becomes 1 step with contrast paint. Anyway, let's get started, and I'll show you the hard way to paint Tau. Once I built my model, I mounted it on an old, empty paint pot using some poster tack. Attempting to hold the model by the base while painting it is actually a lot more difficult than you think and can really hinder the process. White is notoriously difficult to paint, and in this case, I've just saved myself the headache and use a white rattle can to prime the model. Our first color is Vallejo Heavy Charcoal. It has excellent coverage, and I begin by painting that everywhere there's going to be fatigues or under armor on the model. I just work my way around the model using a size 1 brush and being careful not to hit any of the white armor panels and undo the work of the rattle can. Once that's complete, I then paint the feet using Fenrisian Gray. This is a light gray blue, and if you look at the model closely, you'll notice that on all of the infantry, their feet are actually exposed. Once that's set, I start working my way around the model, adding red accents to break up all of the white. In this case, I'm using a 00 brush to apply Mephisted red along the top of the plasma rifle, and I'm also making some squad markings on the back. There's a natural panel separation along the back of the helmet, and in this case, I've decided to paint it red just to break up the space. As a signature across all my army, the squads have different markings on their thigh armor. In this case, the second panel from the top gets a coat of Mephisted red. As I apply my texture paste to the base, I want to take a moment to thank my growing Patreon community. Adam Fox, Joshua Isaac Hannon, and Matt Mitchum were the first members, and this week, another Thunderhammer subscriber, The Rascal. Thank you all for your continued support. You're amazing. As I waited for my texture paste to dry, I began by applying an all-over wash of Nuln Oil on the fatigues, making sure that the shade settled into the recesses and folds of the underarmor. Then I began the long and painstaking process of pin washing the entire model. Now, there are two schools of thought here. One, you could just cover the entire model in Nuln Oil and then rework all of the panels by painting white over the top surfaces. Or two, you can do this, a pin wash. Now, it may sound like the first option is faster, but in the end, you end up repainting the entire model twice. And as we all know, painting white is an absolute pain, so in this case, it's better just to invest the time, use a 000 brush, and painstakingly work Nuln Oil into all of the recesses and armor panels. Once the shade was dry on the fatigues, I then did an overbrush of Administratum Gray in order to bring out the folds to highlights. An overbrush is a bit like a dry brush, but you want to make sure that there's a fair amount of paint left on the brush so that it catches more of the details. And once I had finished that, I created a mix of Administratum Gray and white, and then using a 000 brush, hit the upmost highlights on all of the folds. Keep in mind that none of these steps would have been necessary if I had used a contrast paint like Basilicanum Gray or Black Templar over the original white spray. Now, as careful as we were when we did our pin wash on all the armor panels, eventually some Nuln Oil gets where it's not supposed to be, and we just work our way around the model with a 000 brush and white scar to clean up all of our edges. The model is then finished with a quick dry brush of Mournfang Brown and Ushabti Bone over the base, and we paint the rim Steel Legion Drab. And we're left with this. Tau players will notice that I have not put the left shoulder pauldron on the Fire Warrior. I don't really care for those, and they're a bit clunky to put on as well. Instead, I save those for the Shaz, whatever they call the sergeants. Well, there you have it, the pre-contrast way to paint Tau infantry. Again, I don't really recommend this. Contrast paint is incredible, especially for painting things that are organic or things like fatigues with lots of folds in them, and would have saved a lot of time and energy. Don't be like me. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was my genuine pleasure to make and share it with you. Thank you again for all the support. At the time of this recording, we're 3 subs away from 1,000, and I, again, don't know what to say. The support has been absolutely incredible. The channel is growing faster than I ever could have imagined, and the comments have been incredibly encouraging. And thanks again to my patrons. I'm excited to see that community grow. If you can, come join us over on the Patreon. Subscribing at any level grants you access to our private Discord server, where we discuss the projects that we're working on, share our models, our triumphs, and our failures, and encourage each other to do better every week. If you'd like to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button, help us get to the front page of YouTube and grow our audience. Or you can always head over to the t-shirt shop, bakingsodatees.com, where we feature one-of-a-kind designs shipped directly to you. This week's brand new design is Bad Luck Chuck. Well, thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one.